Hello dear students, today we will be talking in this lecture on the importance of cultural linguistics, especially at that time when we need to communicate with other cultures. So the topic in that becomes cultural linguistics and intercultural communications. Let us enter into it and see how does it work. We have seen that the world has become 100% globalized place, and that is why the intercultural encounters have taken place, and these encounters are so frequent and so diversified that it has become necessary that some kind of tools, some kind of methodologies may be evolved with the help of which this intercultural communication becomes possible, easier, comfortable, and effective also. That is why we are going to have a good understanding of cultural linguistics, because this is the very thing which makes us understand conceptualizations of the cultures. That means how different concepts are formulated, worked upon, and acted upon in any society. That will help us go further to understand intercultural communication. And that is why it is much more necessary to see how meanings are understood across cultures. The meanings of different words, different concepts are possibly the same, but they may vary also certain times, and these variations become significant in case of intercultural communications. That is why cultural linguistic studies help us to do so. Moreover, one needs to understand what are the foundations of cultural linguistics, because these very foundations help us to communicate interculturally. For example, first of all, we must know that cognitive linguistics and anthropological linguistics are important, are significant in this regard. Cognitive linguistics is significant because it studies how one's mind understands these concepts and how these concepts are formulated, and in what way these concepts help us understand the other people's culture as well. Same is the case with anthropological studies and the linguistics dealing with that, and attempts to explore what has been the history, the existence, and the habits and cultural things of the people in a special place, in a special community. And all human beings therefore become a community in this case, and that is why it is again significant in cultural linguistics. In cultural linguistics, situational or situated cognition is also very much important. One needs to see where the concept is arising, what is the situation of that concept, and in accordance to that, we may be able to understand what does that concept mean, or how does it conceptualizes the particular context of our culture. And then ultimately, the third foundation of cultural linguistics is the language interface. How, with the help of language, not only we understand culture, but also we understand what are the concepts which are working behind that culture. This thing is done through cultural linguistics, and these are therefore very much important foundations of cultural linguistics. Not only the foundations are important, but also some of the key concepts are important. These concepts are the concepts of cultural linguistics. For example, first of all, schemas are very much essential to be understood, to be processed before one proceeds to understand intercultural communication. Because in a culture, some concepts or some formulas or some pictures would be formulated in the mind of the individuals individually, and then in the mind of the society collectively. These schemas help us understand what type of categories we can formulate. The categories can include number of things in it. Even the class verification or the class distinction can be the super class, high class, low class, middle class. These can be the categories as well. And similarly, poor and the rich people. And similarly, the culture observing people and culture non-observing people, that thing also be becoming the category. So number of other categories can be formed. And on the basis of these two, the metaphors of culture come into existence. There are symbols, there are the things which become important in any society as far as the culture is concerned. For example, sacrificial animal, for example, the human which is just like a lion, very brave one. All these things become metaphors for a culture. And if we try to understand a culture with respect to the metaphors in it, then definitely we make a better understanding. And ultimately we reach to the fourth point, and that is shared cultural cognition. basing the understanding on all these three concepts. Fourth one is how we share these schema, these categories, and these metaphors and their meaning with the other people. And if we are sharing them, it becomes the part and parcel of the universal culture. And that is why this thing is very much important. Similarly, we have this conceptualization of the culture definitely because schemas are actually shared knowledge structures. Categories are culturally shaped grouping of the people. Metaphors are culturally grounded meaning system in any culture. So if these things are understood, intercultural communication would become easier, comfortable, and effective also. Let us see how it happens. Intercultural communications involve two things at least: that one should be able to negotiate one's identity with the other people's identity, and the meaning which one particularly may be having in one's culture and may be trying to find the similar meaning in the other cultures. Here, a little bit of negotiation is required. It may be called a type of compromise, but it is not the simple compromise. It is a compromise which is done in order to achieve one's purpose and aim and target also. And so, if negotiation takes place in that way, the identity and meaning will have to be a little bit flexible. And because of this flexibility, cultural expectations and norms would also undergo that type of change. I mean, everybody has some of the expectations in a culture and some unwritten norms also. This kind of negotiating comes forward to let us understand the expectation of the people of other cultures and the norms of the people of other cultures. If we understand that, intercultural communication would be quite easy, and it would be easy to manage the differences. Definitely, when we live in this world, we have different geographies, mental as well as physical geographies. Because of that, we have differences of opinion, of concepts, of categories, of everything. This kind of intercultural communication, when is negotiated with other people, it helps us manage our differences also. This is also possible in two other fields, that is, cultural conceptualizations guide interaction. When we understand the conceptualization of the cultures by the people, we can further get guidance from this, how we may be able to interact with the other cultures, other people. Then comes pragmatism or pragmatics. These vary from culture to culture, up to what extent we can be pragmatic in our dealing with the people and up to what extent we cannot. If somebody is able to have an understanding, that person will be able to make a better language choice, basing it on the identity of the person who is speaking and the person who is listening. If these things happen, quite surely the culture or intercultural communication would be quite easier and handier. For this purpose, we have some of the sources which possibly can cause challenges, which possibly can bring some of the misunderstandings. And whenever there is a miscommunication, it means that our whole understanding of the cultural somewhere has become wrong or upsetting, and that is why we are not succeeding in communication. What are these? For example, first of all, contrasting metaphors. The metaphors in every culture have different meaning. For example, the moon may be having a very different connotation and meaning in our society. The same moon in a very advanced scientific society may be having a different connotation. This type of miscommunication can hinder the progress of understanding of two cultures. Same is the case with the politeness norms. Politeness in certain cultures is taken as a very positive sign, but in some other cultures may be taken the sign of a weakness. And that is why the kind of politeness, how much we have to show, how much we cannot show, depends on our cultural understanding of the person to whom we are talking and our own culture to which we belong to. All these things become important because of the divergent politeness level. And then there may be hierarchy and time-based kind of schema or emotion-based kind of schema. For example, if in one society time is valued in one way, in the other society time may be valued in another way. In one society, money may be important and linked with the time, and in other society, relationships may be linked with the time. If this kind of schema exists with respect to time, then hierarchy also becomes important. I mean, who are the people? What is the status of those people? How much schema is important? That will be also counted along with the emotions. What is the care for the emotions in any society? Are the people of the society highly sensitive about their emotions, or they can take it normally? I mean, they can negotiate. These type of things, if we are unable to understand, there may be a miscommunication. And Lastly, we can also find how intercultural communications can be useful in the society. For example, if we are teaching a language, especially in case of ELT, we will be getting benefit from this cultural understanding, because every story or every part of the text may be having different cultural aspect, sometimes geographically, sometimes racially. All these things need to be understood, and in order to understand them, for a better teaching, we need intercultural communication. If one is expert, one can also get benefit in the translation studies also and interpretation studies also. In translation studies, always target source of the text and target of the text, both are important. Both may be belonging to different cultures. Unless we have a good cultural communication, we cannot communicate right meaning to the reader if he belongs to some different culture. And then business and diplomacy are the very application where these things are important, because if you understand the business, the raciality and the community of the person who is selling us something or buying from us something, we may be able to better negotiate the price and the profit. Diplomats also need this one. Then again, because of the global nature of the whole system today, it has become migration. Migration has become very much important. Migration is giving rise to the multiculturalism, and here the success can be guaranteed only if we have intercultural communication successfully done. Because of all that, intercultural communication based on cultural linguistics becomes very important. That is why we can finally conclude that cultural linguistics enriches intercultural understanding. It helps mitigate cultural miscommunication. It supports inclusive, respectful, global communication. So thank you, students, for watching. Hopefully you have got something out of it. If so, do not fail to hit the subscribe as well as the like button, and after that, wait for my next video. Thank you for watching.